Okay. Hello, everyone. And thank you. Oh, the meeting's being recorded. Hello, everyone. And thank you for attending the inaugural Kaffeeklatsch in conversation with artists Moneca Sinclaire and Ildiko Nova. My name is Jean Borbridge, and I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator at the School of Art Gallery. For those who are visually impaired, I am a white-skinned female presenting person with purple lipstick on and brown hair tucked up in a bun. I'm in a white room with an ornate mirror in the background and some plants to the right of me. ASL interpretation will be available at this event. It will be spotlit the entire time. Closed captioning is also available, and you can find it at the bottom of your screen. You can actually drag it and you can click it and drag it around for your convenience. Yeah, so wherever you are joining us from, I would invite you to think about the land you are on and your relationship to that land and its original caretakers. I'm speaking on behalf of the School of Art Gallery and the University of Manitoba, which is located on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the past harms and the continual ongoing violence of settler colonialism on Indigenous peoples. As an educator and outreach coordinator at the School of Art Gallery, I will continue to prioritize the works, stories, and programming of Indigenous artists, Black artists, and people of color. The School of Art is generously supported by the University of Manitoba, the arts faculty, staff, and national provincial funding agencies, donors, and volunteers. The funding for Kaffeeklatsch is generously supported by the University of Manitoba Center on Aging and the Age Friendly University AFU Initiative Funding Award. We are so grateful for the funding for this programming, and we couldn't have done it without them. So thank you, Age Friendly Center. In particular, I'd like to acknowledge the fantastic team at the School of Art Gallery, including Blair Thornwall, Donna Jones, C.W. Brooks, Travis Hooney, Zoe LeBron, Glenn Johnson, and Hallie Ritter. I would be and of course, Kaylin Harrison, Media and Events Support Coordinator, Frank Fernandez, who have been particularly helpful in running these programs. Again, I would love to say thank you to the folks at the Center on Aging at the University of Manitoba for all their support in promoting this event. Cool. So I would like to also let you know that Moneca Sinclaire will also be teaching a workshop tomorrow on how to create a mobile creation out of household materials. And I will pop the Eventbrite in the chat for folks to register. It's going to be really fun. I would also like to let everybody know that if you are a student, you can submit a creative response to the themes, ideas, and anything related to this talk, and you will be, if you are successful, you'll get $150. And the the creative response could be like a story, a poem, a playlist, a dance, you name it. So I'll also pop that in the chat. So I would like to turn it over to Moneca and Ildiko and introduce them. So Moneca Sinclaire is a multimedia Nihan and Cree artist who uses everyday objects to recycle or transform them into beautiful art. A self-taught artist who learned to do art from watching her paternal grandmother, combining her love of the environment and art to help reduce the waste in landfills and to create something from what people see as nothing into something fantastic. Ildiko Nova, Romani identified, Canadian freelance multimedia artist residing in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Her work is about storytelling and juxtaposition, as she enjoys putting elements together that are unusual or unexpected. As a community worker and city dweller, her work often points to societal issues of the underprivileged and the effects of urbanization on wildlife. So I would like to turn it over to these artists. If you have any questions, please keep them till the end, and we will have a Q&A period. You're welcome to turn on your screen and ask your question or put them in the chat. So I'll turn it over to you, Monica and Ildiko, for our first Kaffeeklatsch.
Thank you. So as Jean said, my name is Monica. So I'm just going to ask Ildiko the first question is, so tell me a little bit about your process involved. Is it materials first or ideas first?
Hi, Monica. Great to see you, and thanks for the invite for everybody. So the answer to that is I usually jump between projects. So I like to change mediums because it helps me to overcome creative blocks. So I do sketches, I can say every day in my sketchbook, but also I use ink or markers or color pencils. And then the other day, I just decide that I do beaded embroidery, jewelry design, and I keep up with my digital tablet. How about you, Monica?
How about me? I'm the same. I use both. Sometimes I'm collecting, for example, thousands of bottle caps, and then I have an idea of what I want to do with them. Recently, I started making beaded curtains similar to like the beaded curtains you saw in the 70s and 60s. And I used bottle caps for that. And I make a design on it. And then I started thinking about these bottle caps and what else could I do with them? So I started making what I call cascading flowers. And so there's always ideas that I have brewing in my head. So depending on what I'm doing, either I start collecting stuff because I have this idea, or I already have a bunch of stuff that I've just been collecting over the couple of months. And so, yeah, so me, it's both. Also, I either have stuff or I have an idea. Like right now, I'm trying to collect in case anyone wants to drop off green bottle caps, because I have projects where I need a lot of green bottle caps and I don't have enough right now.
Yeah, I'm on to that. I collect you cups all the times. So what does it mean to you to share your artwork? How do you decide what to share?
Well, actually, it's only recently that I started sharing my artwork, probably in the last 10 or 15 years. Before this, I did art for myself. It was a form of healing for me because of, as Jean mentioned in her introduction, of all the colonialism that we suffered as Indigenous people here on this territory. And I come from a very, what I call a very interesting home. And because of that, I used to escape into art, and it helped me emotionally. It helped me think about all the things that I was going through. So when I was younger, I used to write a lot of poetry and stories. And I used to watch my grandmother, my dad's mom, and she used to make beautiful stuff. Like she'd make garland out of chip bags. She'd cut them all up and sew them. And I was always so fascinated by that. And I remember as a young girl, I used to always make sculptures out of anything, mud, sand, trees. I'd put them together. And so I've always been like a sculptor of some sort. And as I was showing people my art, people kept saying, "Oh, you should show that. It's so beautiful. You do such great stuff." And I was like, I wonder if I should. So it took a lot of courage. I put on my courage boots, and then I started showing my art. So it's just, in the last 10 or 15 years. And I started to think about that. It really helped me in my healing journey. And I thought, maybe I'll show my art because maybe what I do will help someone in their healing journey. So so that's what it means to me. It means that I share what I love with people, and I hope that it helps them too. And what about you? What does your work mean for others?
so I can relate to using all kinds of materials all the time. Even as a kid, I remember we made like dolls of corn husk. I'm sure many people can relate to that, especially like a countryside. I like to share my artwork because I see it as a form of networking. So like today on the internet, everything is such fast pace. So if you are there, people can see that you are working on something. If you are not there, like you easily get forgotten. So it's mostly my networking. So this is my shout out to the world that I'm still working, and it actually helped me to connect to people, and I actually got some commission work through this. So, and it's always good to get like nice feedback that people enjoy them. So yeah.
That's very fascinating. Yeah, I'm totally the same. I think that's why Ildiko and I click so much, because we're very similar in how we think about art. And I was curious to know, when did you start your art practice?
I always did art as far as I can remember. As a kid, I always drew, even like boring classes. I just decorated my notebooks. And then as an adult, when I had my like just everyday minimum wage work, I always took my sketchbook for my lunch hour and just kept sketching. And also my grandmother taught me how to do embroidery. So it, to me, I had a lot of comfort to work with my hands. So it's very natural. It's and I feel the need to do that like on an everyday basis. Yeah. How about you?
I'm the same with you. I had a really great role model, my grandmother, and just people around my community. And I was thinking about this question about, I guess it started the moment I could observe and look and see. So I saw my grandmother and I saw my aunties all doing what people called back then craft.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that slowly changed to mean art. And I'd watch him and be so fascinated by it. And so, yeah, it began when I was very, very young. Like you, I would draw and just grab any old piece of paper and start drawing. And I remember I was probably about 7 or 8. I was in, I forget what grade I would be in then, 4 or something. And they had a drawing contest in our school. And so I decided to enter it, and I drew my picture. And it's a school from grade 1 to grade 6, and they were picking one winner. And I won.
Yay! It's always good. It's always good to win, yeah, or any kind of recognition, right?
A bag of chips and a drink and a movie pass. So that was a big deal for a grade 3-year-old.
Yeah, that sounds sweet. Yeah. So how did your art has evolved over time?
I'm trying to think, like before that, art was just something I did. Was it just made me feel good. It was yeah, it was just, I did it for myself, and I did it because, like I said, it helped me emotionally and spiritually and mentally, just to get through the day. And when I started really looking at art, I started reading about it, and I started taking classes, an odd class here and there, through community centers, just because I wanted to learn more about it and the proper way to do it. And um, in my family, because there's a lot of residential school history in my family, a lot of my aunties and such never did anything like beading or anything, but they did a lot of crocheting and knitting. So I learned how to crochet and knit, and they did a lot of good needlework and sewing. So those are the skills I learned from my aunts. But beading and everything else like that, would buy things, and then I would take them apart because I wanted to learn how you did that. It was something that wasn't done in our community, but I wanted to learn it because I saw it was something part of my own culture, and so I thought, well, I'm going to learn this, and I'm very stubborn sometimes. So I took it apart, and that's how I learned to make beaded earrings. And I think I was in grade 10 when I started making beaded earrings, and then I gave them to this one person that had a craft store, and then she sold them, and then I realized that, oh, I can make some money from this. And I always had this idea that art was something that you had to be famous, or you had to be dead or something to become famous. So my art evolved into thinking that it was just something I did for me. But then later on, I started to think, as people started commenting on it, that, oh, this is kind of like a way to help people. And it's a way to, you could actually make some money from it, some pocket money. And so it evolved from just being kind of like a craft to more of my own ideas, and recognizing that art is like, when you put your whole body and mind into it, it just becomes something so greater than you. And yeah, so for me, art has evolved from just a small little thing to this huge complex idea that runs in my head quite a bit. What about you? How has art evolved for you?
So first of all, I think your stubbornness is paying off, and it's good that you stay stubborn, and we can see your beautiful stuff. So like I said before, I always drew. I always did pictures. I remember that even in class, sometimes kids who struggled with the drawing class, when the teacher didn't pay attention, we switched paper, then I did their sketches. So so it was just so natural to me. I always was, that was what I like to do. And then later on, I focused on family life, and then I had my 2 kids, and I taught them a lot of art through art projects. I also designed their T-shirts with like cartoon characters and stuff. And much later, I finished 2 watercolor courses in George Brown College in Toronto. So that was my first like professional studies. And then partly from what I learned from there, I had in Toronto a first solo exhibition. It's called My Toronto, from my ink drawings of the city, because I was just like, I really loved, when I lived in Toronto, I really loved their landmarks and buildings, and just the city lanes and everything. And then when I came to Winnipeg, I started to volunteer for art organizations, as participant and as volunteer helper. And then around 2015, when I started to switch my art to digital tablet, because I technically ran out of storage. So I just, now everything is like this little, a USB stick. So just carry it around, have a print if it's necessary. And I started to respond to submissions. We're gonna talk about this more later. But so that's how I opened up, and it's like an ongoing conversation with the world. And so the COVID slowed things down. So you and I started to send like postcards to each other.
Yeah.
And that was a nice artistic challenge to keep active and challenge ourselves with new, like these mini projects. I really love those. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of fell out of that. I'll have to start that up again.
Anytime.
The other thing I wanted to mention from the last question was, I also thought when I used to go to art galleries and stuff, that that's what an artist was. They had to show art in the galleries, and like I said, as time went on, I realized that it's not just that. And so anyway, I was thinking about that, and I was also thinking about, like, as an artist, how can I break stereotypes of my culture? And I'm curious to know with you, Ildiko, how do you break your stereotypes of the Romani culture?
So when I took my George Brown College community worker course in 2009, in our human rights course, we had to face our own identity, our privileges and disadvantages. So that's technically the same time I came out as a Roma, because like it was a class exercise, and then I was like, my eyes were full of tears, and it's like, hey, this is who I am. I cannot say anything else, right?
Yeah.
So and after I finished college, so during the college years, I helped Roma Hungarian speaker refugees in Toronto. And so I realized that, like, how much privilege I'm having from having a Canadian citizenship. And the political climate was very hostile towards them. So we organized meetings to try to help them, but most of them were deported. However, and then I wrote a lot of paper on it, and then I realized that not everybody is interested in reading long essays. And thankfully we have academics in the Roma community. So I just realized that I have some academic skills, but I also have my artistic expression. So ever since it became my self-titled role that I'm going to put efforts for positive representation of my people and advocacy for them. When I have a forum, or sometimes I create my own forum. So how about you?
How about me?
How about you?
Okay. I know that I just want to share one story about Ildiko. Is that one of the stereotypes I know that she works really diligently and hard on is that whole idea of the word gypsy.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Ildiko, I probably wouldn't have known that there's such a long history of it, that Romani people were called gypsies, and there's this negative connotation to it. And so when she does her art, she talks about that and talks to other people who are advertising as gypsy, whatever, and
people get gypped.
Yeah, people get gyps and rock. It all has to do with the whole notion of being cheap and being a thief and all those things. And even myself in my own household, when people say that word, I say, hey, let me just sit down with you for a second and let you know. And now I have two boys in this household, or two young men, I ought to say, who also are spreading that whole stereotype of gypsies, and saying, hey, that's not a very nice word to say it. So just from her art and talking to me about it, and me saying something, and then it's just, like, to me, carries on. And that's the beauty of art. Like, it just helps in breaking stereotypes, not just with, like, Ildiko, but she's influenced me, and I've influenced two people. And, hopefully people here will start to look more into that and see what they can do as an ally.
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, as an Indigenous person, I've for stereotypes, I had a long discussion in my head, and sometimes I don't answer myself, but anyway, I had a long discussion about like what exactly is Indigenous art, because the type of art I do is recycled art, and I find things and I change them. And I started really thinking hard about it, because I remember one time this person came up to me and said, "Oh," and she looked at my art, and I said, "Can I help you?" Because you know when someone's curious.
Yeah.
So I just said, "Is there something I can help you with?" She goes, "Oh, I thought you did Indigenous art." I said, "Yes." She goes, "Well, this doesn't look like Indigenous art." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, I'm Indigenous and I do art, therefore it's Indigenous."
Absolutely. Yes, yeah.
I got that whole notion from Leah Fontaine, because I had talked to her about it, and I said to her, "Oh, it just really bothers me because people expect you as an Indigenous person to do this woodland style, or fluff and feathers, I call it, and that's not the kind of art I do. I think about like the environment and the earth and the land when I'm doing my art, because to me what I do is very environmental. It's the way I've been taught, and it's like when we hunted the moose, we used everything, and it's the same with my grandmother. She just transposed that thinking into everyday objects, and so that's how I've been raised to think like that. And because I think a specific way about doing art, it becomes part of me, it becomes alive, and it becomes Indigenous.
Yes.
So, and when Leah explained that to me, I was just like, yeah, that's right. So after that, I knew what to say. Well, I'm Indigenous. This is my art, therefore it's Indigenous art. And I know that there's a big debate in the academic community about like, what is Indigenous art? And to me, that's what Indigenous art is. It's if you're Indigenous and you're doing it in a good way, then it becomes Indigenous art.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And so art is evolving.
Mm-hmm.
So we are finding new ways, materials. So I absolutely agree. You are Indigenous and it's art, so it's Indigenous art. And also to me it reflects that is part of the Indigenous teaching, that like connection to the land and not to waste anything. So that's reflected in your art. Yeah. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for recognizing the G word. I say one person at a time. So if one person can spread that please stop using that word, it's already something we achieved, right? So to me, social activism started early because I grew up in a socialist country, and so the Soviet oppression were very present. So rebellion was very natural. Like you heard it at the dinner table, how people were frustrated, how our grandparents were traumatized, what they've seen personally in the Second World War. Yet the propaganda tried to change those facts. So I always felt I was tuned in these unjust things in the world. And then again, my college years took me even further on this journey, because the human rights courses we had, and then my work curriculum was one was in a homeless shelter, the other one was gifted teenagers, and the third group was newcomers to Canada. So there are there are a lot of vulnerable and disadvantaged groups in this country. And also as a guest on this land, I feel that I have to honor the kindness of Indigenous people by doing my share to go to protests, to bring awareness and be loud of what is not right. So and also so publicly, the first project was the Dangerous Women. It was initiated in the University of Edinburgh, England. So they accepted my submission, and so that was a Roma woman who asks, like, what else should I do to be accepted in society? And that's reality for most of us. And then I did another show as part of in a group show, Expo 2, also in England, where I did a piece about teenage pregnancy. So sometimes so girls should get education before starting a family, especially when they live in poverty. So, and from your Indigenous communities, I learned a lot about matriarchy. So I keep thinking about that, like how to honor and representing strong women. So that's kind of related to my latest portrait series, and it's my personal passion, even if these art calls often initiated by non-government organizations, so they don't have a lot of funding. So I find myself that I'm not gonna make millions by sharing my art this way, but my passion and what I try to say is more important to me. So yeah.
And for me, when I think about my art and how I used it as a vehicle for social activism is, I'm thinking, like, as I said, like 10 to 15 years ago, I just publicly started showing my art. And previous to that, I was very socially active in the social activism scene, and I would attend marches, and I used to help people make signs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people know how to make signs, so I would cut out big templates and say, okay, this is the easier way to make, because people were doing it by hand and it was taking forever. And so then we just get cardboard and I'd cut it out and make templates for them. And so that was kind of my contribution to social activism in terms of art. And for me, social activism wasn't something that we did in my family, because that was something that was oppressed. And I remember the first time I went to an event, it was the Meech Lake Accord, and we stood up and protested. And then I called my mom, and then she said to me, wow, you're really lucky you get to do that, she says, because we never had a chance to do anything like that, because back then the system of oppression was really strong. And I started thinking about that. Yeah, I'm going to continue to do this. And then later on, I found out when I was going through my mom's stuff, because she had passed away almost 15 years ago, when we were going through her things and, just cleaning out their house and stuff like that. And she had all these postcards and letters that she was sending to free Leonard Peltier. And so I started thinking, oh, my mom tried her best to be her own little social activist. And maybe unconsciously I saw that. And so I continued that. And so as a social activist, I and as an artist, I try to submit things that where our story can be told they had a call out one year, about 4 or 5 years ago, for quilt pieces to talk about what it was like to be in residential school, or if you were a survivor. So I did one, and I wrote a poem about my mom, and I drew a picture of my mom, and there was also a call out for strong women in Manitoba, and I drew a picture of my grandmother, and I wrote a poem about that too. And like Ildiko, we don't get paid for doing this, but it's from our heart, and because we want to. Like for me, I want to be able to tell people our story, and so you just find like a back door, front door, side door, some way to find a way to infuse that story into the system. And recently, Christy Belcourt had a call out for beaded vamps, and it went across Canada, and it went across Canada for about 6 or 7 years. And so I contributed to that. I beaded some vamps, and so they went traveling all over. And yeah, to me, it's really important to put your story into your art, because you never know who's going to see it. And you might spark interest in one person who is asking questions about their identity. And I think for me, that's what social activism is about. Is putting the forefront of your own culture and your identity, and letting people know that we don't want to do this anymore, and we want to be accepted into this world. And that's what I think, when I start to infuse social activism and art together. It's a way to tell other people that we exist as women, we exist as gay and lesbian people, we exist, and transgendered, and as non-binary people. And so for me, that's really important, to be able to keep an open mind about how art needs to be represented in that world where people try to keep us quiet and try to not let us be humans living in a good spirit. And yeah, so that to me is what social activism and art is about. So I was thinking about, like we talked about how we do social activism and art, and I was thinking, like, how else do we seek out art opportunities when there's not social activism? And I was wondering about you, Ildiko. How do you seek out art opportunities that are not related to social activism?
Oh, okay. So I developed my own research system. So there are always different calls on the internet. So the more I looked into it, the more I learned how to submit and what kind of organizations look for art. So I usually check art calls, and then I check if it fits my interest and my skill set, because my art, especially the digital art, is often part of my expression, but also I'm touching a little bit of the design side of art. So let's say I see a poster design, so I have to check it with my own skill set if my skill fits to that, or something that leave it to these 20-year-old young kids who is like, they are more tuned with, there are always like trends and fashion in art and design. So sometimes I feel that my experience is not gonna fit to that, so that's fine. And also when I find submissions, there is always a chance to be accepted or rejected. So when I get rejected, I don't feel discouraged by that. I just say to myself that it was a great learning experience. So So sometimes my stuff talks to people. I got a few local calls that I was able to accepted. So the Winnipeg downtown organized make Portage Place beautiful. So we used to have panels on Dollarama and then the food court on Portage Place. Unfortunately, they took it off for more commercially pleasing images. I doubt it, but and then I also designed the dragon bike rack for Chinatown. So sometimes there are opportunities when you succeed. Sometimes we both fail. How about you? We like none of us passed the brain project, for example, right?
Yeah, I'm the same. I look for submissions, and actually, people tell me about them. And if I see something that, like Ildiko, I think she'd be ideal for, I send it to her right away.
Yeah.
So we're always like sending things to each other. But one of the things that I usually don't enter is if they ask for a fee. Like some of these art
Yes.
commissions ask you like send $20 and your work may or may not get chosen. I was like, I don't want to give these guys money. It's just that whole idea that, as an artist, you're supposed to pay 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 for someone to look at your art. I was like, no, you guys make money, so no. So I'm really firm about that. I won't pay to have someone look at my art. I'm the artist. I'm putting the thought and idea into it, and so that's kind of one of the things that I do. And just recently I started writing some small grants, and we'll see what happens with those. And it's always really interesting, just how things evolve. And like, I probably would never have thought of writing a grant for art because I didn't know you could, but now I know you can. And I've joined art organizations just to learn more about how this world of art works. And it's been a really interesting time. And I'm yeah, there is a business side to art that you never learn about until you start asking questions. And that's one thing about art is if you want to earn an income from it, you can't be shy about it. You have to ask questions and be okay with it. And yeah, and like Ildiko, we both submitted to different places and neither of us get accepted. We go, oh well, it was a good experience. It helped me update my art CV, and it helped me update my cover letters. So those are things that are good. And yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And I don't find it fair either to start with a fee.
Yeah.
It sounds very unnatural to me. Like they have to find their own fundings or not to pass it on to artists who is just we do our share to be represented. So Moneca, do you do you do you benefit from freelancing or does it help your career? What's your feelings on that?
I think it helps me. Like I said, it makes me go out in the world and look at art and think that, like, before, if I was stuck in a box where I had to do a specific kind of art, and I worked for a company that said, oh well, you have to do this kind of art and only this kind of art, I think I would just feel creatively boxed in. And with freelance, I can pick and choose what I want to do. And right now I work full time for an income, but I'm soon going to be retiring and I'd like to do art more full time. And so these last couple of years I've spent looking at different ways that as a freelance artist I can possibly earn a small little income from it and just do art. Like, one of my dreams is to go to Burning Man and help in a project there. And so there's lots of benefits to being a freelance artist. I think There, and of course, like everything else, there's some not so good benefits, but the great benefits outweigh those. And like any place where you're trying to earn income, there's going to be work all the time.
Mhm.
And you, what about being?
So Burning Man sounds great, and the teaching says that once you let it out, it's eventually gonna be heard. So cheer to that. I find it also beneficial. It has a little part where like you feel isolated,
Mhm.
but at the same time, like when like I like to work by myself because it I look back and I feel a lot of encouragement from it. So also I try to fit in so many art organizations locally, and it just not happening. I never understood why and who gets the representation. So that's why I actually grew more and more independent, but also because I don't go under an umbrella of an organization. Therefore, I don't have to follow their politics.
Yeah,
So in yes, and it's more mentally healthy to me that way. This independent way of running my own show,
yeah,
and also yeah, and also I can decide how many. So I have the freedom how many deadlines I build up.
yeah,
So I usually have a calendar and a list, and then I tell myself, okay, this is I'm very interested. This is what I have an idea immediately, or the next one it needs research and thinking. However, it's worth
yeah.
my time and effort to think about it. So yeah, and also I like I mentioned before, it helps me to filter my own interest and skill set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started doing submissions, they'd say, "What's your artist statement?" I was like, I don't even know what the heck the artist statement is." Researched that and found out, oh, what's an artist statement? Oh, I know that now, and I know how to write an art CV, and so it's like I said, it's been a real interesting journey, just learning and by doing and just making a lot of mistakes on the way, but learning from those, and it's been an awesome journey, and I I want to continue doing art in this way that I'm doing it. And yeah, so I see that it's almost the ending of this session. So I'm not sure if Jean, if you're going to open the the computer system so people can ask any questions, and then you
Open.
may or may not be able to answer, but ask away.
I'll officially open the computer systems to any questions that the audience may have regarding you and Ildiko's art practice, your relationship, your social activism. There's so many things to talk about here. So if anyone if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in. I guess I have a question. So it seems like inspiration comes so easily for both of you. You're like so prolific in how do you say that word, Monica?
Prolific.
Yeah, prolific. You're so prolific. Like each of you like are constantly making work. So where are you drawing your inspiration from, and or do you ever feel depleted, and how do you keep coming back to this making?
I'll answer that first. Like for me, I go to First Fridays here in Winnipeg, and that inspires me when I go to those events. And I sometimes pop my head into the Winnipeg Art Gallery, and then I also just talk to other artists, and I go to a lot of websites, and I just sometimes if I'm feeling uninspired, I'll look through websites and go, oh, that's so cool. I wonder if I could make that. And And then I have a book, what I call a book of ideas. So I may not have the time to make it, but I have think them through and draw them out. And so I'm constantly having ideas about what kind of work I want to do. And if I see, like, as my son calls it, I collect a lot of junk, but it's organized junk. I have everything
Same
in
here.
bins
Yeah.
and so if I have an idea, I can go to my plastic drawer and look in there and go, oh, you know what? I saw this really neat thing. I wonder if I could do that. And then if I don't have time, if I don't have the materials, I just quickly mark it down in my ideas book and then collect things. And so just even walking around the city here in Winnipeg is just, you see all this graffiti art and little people making little things and hanging them up. Even with COVID time, there's all these little art installations around little neighborhoods, and I go look at those. It's constantly looking and observing and seeing things that keeps me inspired. I just love people when they make art. It just inspires me so much. And yeah, I just love it.
Yeah, so to me, it's kind of overlapping what Monica is saying. So I love to look at art. First Fridays, different websites, and then it raises the question, like, how would I approach this myself? Also, so first of all, it looks more flawless to people as it is, because I have more blocks than people would realize it. So I just keep doing what I love to do. And also sometimes I actually, once Monica and I read art therapy book, and it said that if you need a boost of self-confidence and where you are with your craft or art, make a doll of yourself. So I remember we made ourselves in a doll form. I still have it. Monica, do you have it?
I still have mine. It's
Yeah,
sitting there.
yeah. And so that exercise in the book promised that you guaranteed gonna feel so much better after you did it, and it worked for me. So
With me too. And the other
yeah.
thing is to no matter how busy I get or how lazy I get, I make sure I do 15 minutes, minimum 15 minutes of drawing, thinking, looking at art. So it's a practice I do every day. So if I don't do it, sometimes it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm going, oh crap, I didn't do art today. So I just quickly get up and do that, because it's kind of a promise I made to myself. If I want to keep doing this journey, I have to put the work into it. And that's where inspiration comes from. It's just, what do they say? It's 98% this and 2% inspiration, 98% perspiration.
Perspiration. Yes. Yeah. Easily. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
keep yourself motivated because no one's going to do it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
just do it. Like for me, I do it because I love it, and I don't think about the money or anything. I just do it, and because I know it makes me feel better, and it gives me a good boost in my life, and it gives me that serotonin high.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm feeling more inspired already.
Yay.
It's working. Aviva Chiplinsky had a question in the chat. If you could collaborate with one artist, living or dead, who would it be?
Collaborating?
Yeah, if you could collaborate.
Toulouse-Lautrec, because he gave, like, even he depicted a lot of vulnerable women worked as prostitutes. He kind of, I feel that he tried to give them dignity. So I just admire that I feel it's related to give voice to the voiceless. So
I was thinking of who, either Christy Belcourt or George Littlechild. I love both their works. I love George's Littlechild's, all his colors that he uses, and or even Kent Monkman. I love Kent Monkman's work. Just the ideas that they have and the color, and it's just so awesome. And Christy Belcourt, because I just love her little pointillism that she does, and she just does these massive artworks. And yeah, so those are the living people. Dead people.
Oh, that's awesome. I just have Blair Fornwald said, these are such good tips for keeping creativity flowing. Kim Perry says, thank you both. So inspiring, Monica. I love seeing your piece on stage for the Bannock Babes show last Friday. Any reflections on that process? I saw the aftermath, the amazing work that you made. Really beautiful. How are you feeling about that now?
Oh, when I originally made the art piece, I had this idea because I did it as a, what the heck is it called? What do you call it when they, oh, frig, I forget what it's called, but I did it as a project, not a project. What's the word, Ildiko?
What are you looking for?
The word where they hire you to do an art project.
Commission?
Nope, that's not the word.
Commission.
Jean, help me.
I don't know. I think commission backdrop. Did you make a backdrop for them, or?
No, it was originally done as a
artist in residence.
That's what
artist in residence.
Yeah. Resident. Okay, yeah.
Had 3 months to create an art object, and then doing recycled materials, and it was through Arts Junction. And so I was thinking about it, and I thought, what do I want to do? And then I thought, I want to do dream catchers, but with all different designs in them. And so I made it, and it took me 3 months to make it because there was over 40 dream catchers, and they're all attached together. And I painted a stick that I found on outside, and then I was finished, and then I hung it in my room in my house for a long time. And then Arts Junction contacted me again, and they asked if they could rent that piece from me to use it as a backdrop. And I thought, oh, okay, sure. Because in my home, it looks beautiful. But when we saw it outside, oh my gosh, it looks so beautiful. Like the lighting on it and everything. I was like, holy crap, I did that. So it's so different to see your artwork like just up in display outside. And it was just an awesome experience. I just like kind of like beside myself, just wow, I can't believe I actually did that. That is really pretty. Wow, good job.
Yeah, it's beautiful indeed. So the moment I've seen it, I shared it on Facebook, and people just started to respond to it. Yay, great. And they don't know Monica, but they know me. So like that's just love when we cheer each other's work, right? Yeah.
Ildiko are on our 10th year anniversary of being friends. We met each other 10 years ago at a art project. Actually, we did a mosaic at Ellis and Arlington at a community center, and we just started chatting. And I was like, when I came home, I was like, oh, I think I like this little lady.
Yes. So it's a wonderful 10 years. I got a lot of inspiration and teachings from Monica. It just a place I'm in my life right now. She has a huge part in it, and it just even just from a fast speaking, jumpy person, like all her wisdom built in me in a way that I actually can talk slower now, and just being mindful and probably wiser. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a great journey knowing Ildiko as a human being and as this great artist. I have so much admiration for her work that she does, and we belong to the mutual admiration club, the MAC.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Mac and cheese.
easy.
Mac and cheesy. There you go.
Aw, your relationship, like, and community is so present in your chat, and yeah, I'm so grateful to have you both here. There's a few more comments and suggestions, or not suggestions, questions. So Jennifer writes, book recommendation, Adele Wiseman's Old Woman at Play, all about Adele's mother doll making with found recycled objects at hand. Ooh, pretty cool. And Lynn Hutchinson Lee says, this conversation is close to my heart. My dad was a painter and printmaker who came from a family of English Roma tobacco pickers and entertainers who came to Canada. He was largely self-taught. I think he would have loved to meet you both. You're very inspiring. My question, have you ever collaborated together on an art project or installation? Have you ever worked on a community arts project?
Well, just the one we mentioned, the mosaic, and plus Ildiko did a one for Art City, and then she called me up and said, I need help. So I said, so I worked with her on that project, and I can't, have we done anything else together?
It's just so many things. I think we just did this. I don't know, like a lot of mosaic work at the beginning. Yes, yeah. Oh, we had Art Junction workshop together.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like that bird collage, something like that. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we did a Arts Junction. Oh, Art from the Heart too. We did.
Yes, yeah.
We did quite a few together.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track. Yeah. So may I say hi to my dear friend Lynn from Toronto? Great that you are checking us. Thank you so much. And Lynn is a great supporter of me throughout these years. Nice comments, nice sharing of my art. So yeah, I did a portrait of her too, the Strong Women portrait series. So yeah, I'm very grateful to have a bunch of supportive people.
Yeah. Same. Thank you to everyone who joined. I'm just so grateful. I'm just, that you took the time out and to listen to Ildiko and I. And I'm sure you could be doing other things, but maybe this is great opportunity.
Yeah.
There's one more question. Or Aviva Chiplinski also says, I love the way you support each other. And then Colette, sorry if I say your name wrong, Balsian, thank you very much for sharing your artistic experiences. This is so interesting for me. Seeing you both so motivated is great. My question is, how do you manage to store all your works and supplies?
Yeah, exactly. I ask myself the same. So I have one little storage closet, and also I sacrifice and dedicate some of my normal closets at home, where normal people would store their shoes or something. So to me, it's just like box and labeling. Like I have to keep everything labeled, because otherwise I just look for endlessly. So yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, same with me. I have everything in boxes and labeled, and And I'm fortunate I live in a house, so my basement is filled with things. And yeah, any like sturdy box I find, I fix it up, paint it, and then I use it for storage. And yeah, you definitely have to be organized if you want to be an artist, because sometimes there's quick call outs, and if you spend all your time looking for stuff, it's a nightmare. So I've learned to just organize.
I can relate to that. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, I just want to say a huge thank you from me and everyone at the School of Art Gallery. This has been such an amazing conversation, so engaging, and yeah, just so generous from both of you to share where this passion is coming from, how it started, and your relationship together. If everyone is interested in learning more about Kaffeeklatsch, I just put the link in the chat. Our next Kaffeeklatsch series will be happening on November 26th with Elvira Finnegan and Jennifer Still. It's going to be a really amazing conversation, followed the next day with a really beautiful meditative workshop with Elvira Finnegan. So check out the link for that, and you can go to the School of Art Gallery website to learn more. So thank you all so much, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Great to talk to you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming out.